Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Deku Married Jirou, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The flames of excited gossip had finally started to settle in Heights Alliance 1A after the lip-locking stunt Kyoka pulled with Izuku, which she exacerbated by throwing out words equivalent to napalm while stringing him along by the tie. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go eat some chocolate and then stick my tongue down his throat some more for at least another hour and then have him do the same to me. In private, this was met with a mix of cheering and whistling, which they both accepted as it completed the hat trick of wins they had stacked up that day. But a backdraft came quickly in the form of the monthly magazine Fashionissimo, with the cover and the first several pages featuring the couple in their respective clothes that Fletcher fitted them out with. A sleepy-eyed Izuku walked downstairs with his bag to find many of his classmates huddled around Ashido and Hagakure, who each had a copy of the magazine in their hand, with Kyoka sitting between them as they all squealed, oohed, and awed at the cover and the next few pages. There he is. Izuku, the bad boy, Midoriya. Watcha gonna do when he comes for You? And here we go, he muttered to himself as he braced for the first wave of questions and reactions. Dude, Midoriya, how the hell are you and Jirou on a fashion magazine? Kaminari asked as he shoved a copy of it into Izuku the minute he approached the table for breakfast. You look fly as hell on this. What happened to the resident shy guy that we all know and love? I kinda miss him, you know. Long story short, Kyoka met her equivalent of All Might in the music industry at a unisex boutique. He owned the place and asked us to model for him. She said yes, I got roped in, and had some fun by accident. No regrets though. And we also got to keep the clothes for free as payment, which you all saw yesterday. Midoriya, this is like a megaton upgrade of you from day one in class, and while I don't hate it, it's fucking scary how different you look right now and how you look in this. Kirishima chuckled jovially. While it is rather perplexing to see you in this sort of attire, I'm glad to see you're having fun in the process of turning over a new leaf like this. Well done, Midoriya. I'm proud to call you my friend. Ida nodded with a smile. The look on your face on the cover page gave me chills, ribbit. Asui commented with a slightly bashful smile. Midoriya, please tell me you plan on doing this more. Ashido begged. Please. I swear I will become a fan and everything. Ooh. I know. Next time wear a three-piece suit with your hair slicked back and wear Ida's glasses. The catchphrase would be, manners maketh man. Yaomomo, will you create clothes for him so we can make a Dropbox file or something? I certainly wouldn't mind, but I'd be more interested in fitting Jirou out, to be completely honest. Yaoyorozu smiled. She looks absolutely dazzling in this dress. I appreciate that, but I didn't plan for that to happen, Ashido, Izuku said as he pulled a glass of his leftover smoothie from the fridge, and I don't know if I wanna do that again. I'm trying to be a pro-hero first and foremost, not a fashion icon. Or, can't you do both? Ashido insisted with a pouty face. Fucking damn it, you groupies, enough is enough. Bakugo raised his voice as he stood up, overturning his chair, which Kirishima managed to catch before it hit the floor. Sure, shitty Deku got a couple photos taken. WHO. The hell cares? It was a single fucking event that happened yesterday. It's in the past, so let it fucking die now. Besides, you dumbasses should know the photos for this sorta shit goes through a metric fucking ton of editing. Sorry to inconvenience your ego with my honesty, Lord Explosion Murder, Kyoka interjected as she got up and shuffled towards the pantry for a slice of bread to stick in the toaster, but I actually called and asked if there was any editing done last night. There wasn't. Not even the cover. Sir Ashido, aside from some makeup, every bit of Izuku you see there is unfiltered, au naturel hot and sexy evilness. No. Fucking way. Kaminari shook his head in disbelief. That is a steaming pile of horse shit. Deku, fucking admit that this shit was edited and maybe I won't kill you. A small amount of fireworks went off on Bakugo's palms as he curled his fingers, glaring at Izuku, who finished guzzling the smoothie and was at the door. He shrugged. She's the one that called Mr. Fletcher, not me. I wasn't there, so I can't say one way or the other. But Kaken, one thing I can tell you is this, Jealousy is considered a disease. I'll leave some thoughts and prayers at your door later, bye. With his bag already on his shoulder, Izuku was out the front door before anyone could react. Todoroki's head slowly hit the table with a thunk as he trembled, desperately holding his laughter in. What the hell just happened? Hagakure asked. Izuku just roasted Blondie McSplodey here. Grabbing the piece of toast as it popped out, Kyoka headed towards the door before turning around one more time to give Bakugo a smug look. Hey, sorry my honesty inconvenienced your ego and your desire for fame. Here's my prescription for jealousy. Get well soon, bitch. Flipping him off, Kyoka sped out of the dorm after Izuku, leaving several of their classmates howling in laughter as Bakugo made chase. Game, set, and match. Tokiyami muttered to nobody in particular with a smile as he prepared to leave himself. After getting through the first wave of questions and comments, Izuku wasn't too fazed, which was surprising even to himself. Every person that had read the magazine had complimented him, leading to several students from the management course coming up and asking a ton of questions, as well as being left with their contact information before homeroom and between classes. The same had happened to Kyoka as well, though they were lucky enough to be left alone during lunch. Jirou, you okay? Uraraka asked with a look of concern on her face as she set her tray of food down across from her. You look like you've been put through the ringer and then some. Thanks. She scowled at her bowl of breaded pork cutlet with scallion and eggs. Not her typical choice for lunch, but she wanted to give it a try, since she did end up skipping breakfast after a heated session of love with her boyfriend, with a mark or two to show for it under her clothes. I think I understand why Mr. Aizawa despises the press now. They're a walking storm of migraine induces. Yeah, and you're not the only one that's had to pay for it. Another tray was set down quietly next to Kyoka. She lifted her head to see a familiar freckled face that looked tired and slightly sleep-deprived, but still sporting that million-dollar smile that always magically invigorated her. Izuku, I already apologized to you about my short-sightedness back then. Repeatedly, while his head was buried in between her legs, no less. Ever since their first night together she knew he had a rather long tongue, but by God, did he know how to use it well, both on its own and in tandem with his hands. Although she would never reveal that in public. I know, and I forgave you. Just reminding you. Let's eat. I'm starving. I blame you for that. They ate in silence for the most part, particularly Kyoka, who was hungrier than usual. So, Deku, Uraraka turned to Izuku, finally free of the aura of sweetness that would have made her cough up sugar if she were exposed to it any longer. Any tips on fashion for little old me? Whoa. Wait, just because I got on the cover of a magazine by pure chance I'm suddenly an expert. I mean, come on. You saw the photo. You two look like you jumped straight out of a high-quality Netflix anime series. Deku, you're the timid turned badass rich boy and Jirou be the boxed up prim and proper girl being corrupted or something. And you don't make it look cliché, tacky or gaudy. It's like you were made to wear those and strut your stuff. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear you just compare us to anime, Uraraka. Kyoka mumbled, more than half finished eating now. I didn't know I looked good in it until I saw Kyoka's reaction, Izuku shrugged. But are you sure you want amateur opinions? It'll be. The blind leading the blind, Kyoka finished for him as she washed a bite of the food down with water. Any advice we teenagers give to anyone is amateur anyway. Just give her something already. Okay. Izuku took several moments as he ate, thinking while he chewed. Well, quote, comma, dot, read, like, he motioned Uraraka to give him the magazine. She obliged, and Izuku kept flipping through the pages until he stopped at a page with Uebami dressed in shades of crimson. Like this. Wah, really? Read. She didn't look too convinced, since it ran directly against the trends of her usual attire out and about when school was not in session. Certain shades of it plus white and pink in your case, but I'm thinking something formal. A conventional combination of a pink sleeveless double-breasted blouse and a knee-length circular skirt in maroon. Then a white jacket on top and matching pumps or pointed ballerinas. Also a hair clip or two. You tend to go for calming colors with a casual style, so like you do in GMA, hit with bold and bright instead. Kinda like Ashido. Quote, comma, dot. How the hell do you know so much about girls' clothing? Pre-date crash course lasting 3 days. The near sleepless nights of scribbling down notes while browsing the internet was tiring and hard, but most certainly worth the time if it meant pleasing Kyoka. Ah, I see. But, okay. Bold and bright. Got it. Oh. Also before I forget, Mr. Aizawa wants to talk to you before afternoon classes. Both of you. Well, kinda knew this was coming, but, crap. Oh. Stop being such a downer, Izuku. We'll be fine. As Izuku finished up, they waved a goodbye to Uraraka as they quickly headed towards the faculty office. Aizawa was finishing a can of chili with a plastic spoon which he tossed over his shoulder and into the recycling bin without so much as a glance towards it. Good, you're here. You know what I'm going to tell you, right? About our relationship. I'm guessing you saw the magazine or heard about us being on the cover. Kyoka asked with a straight face which she was slightly struggling to maintain as she thought she saw her homeroom teacher's eyes flash red for a split second when he narrowed them. Correct. I have no interest in media, and I'm sure you had your reasons for doing this, but I won't pry into that. Wouldn't be any point in doing so. But just to be clear, are you two in a relationship, and if so, how long has this been going on between you two? Yes. A little over half a month now. Izuku answered. An uncomfortable silence which lasted a full minute enveloped the atmosphere around the three until Aizawa broke it. As I told you on day one, you're enrolled in the Department of Heroes. That's what you're here to become first and foremost. Fraternizing with your peers is a tertiary priority or lower at best. Thus, this is where I'd reprimand you for your lack of focus. Normally, and I still would, but against my better judgment, I won't. May I ask why not, sir? Kyoka gripped her fingers behind her back until her knuckles turned white. She couldn't risk this being another one of his favorite routine of logical ruses. For one, I'm a teacher, not your father. As long as you act inside the law and the bounds of propriety as UA students as well as common sense, what you do is your business, and if your parents have a problem with your relationship, you can sort it out with them. The other reason, which is infinitely more important, is the marked improvement of your performances. Particularly you, Jirou. Midoriya seems to have a consistently positive reinforcing effect on you, despite being the most problematic of the class and one of the main sources of my headache. Isn't that just malnutrition and lack of sleep? Did I ask you? Aizawa's eyes flashed dangerously as his unkempt black hair rose for a second, instantly shutting Izuku up. Anyways, Midoriya, you're finally applying yourself. Far more actively, as you should. You two seem to have your priorities straight despite being hormonal teenagers, which is more than I can say for the students I taught before you. So as I said before, I won't rebuke you. Yet. Keep that in mind. Yes sir. They nodded in unison. That being said, I must however warn you of how you are setting yourselves up for an uphill battle that will perpetuate as long as you plan on continuing this relationship. With each other or anyone else, for that matter. An uphill battle which no amount of planning and preparation will guarantee your prolonged general well-being, especially when you become pros. Understand where I'm going with this? Aizawa's eyes thinned into a measuring squint. Izuku's fingers curled into fists. He had thought of what would happen, once for every time his life flashed before his eyes. Although not all of them were reported, there were dozens of cases where pro-heroes were somehow compromised due to having their loved ones taken hostage, tortured, raped or worse. And the thought of that happening to his mother or Kyoka of all people utterly terrified him. The potential of such a devastating emotional shock would change him. The anger would shatter the chains of his mind, driving him to do great or terrible things, making him capable of not only thinking but following through with brutally pragmatic methods like that one prolific vigilante resorted to. He was a disillusioned man that lived in a time before society and the judicial system officially took quirks into account. A time of chaos. He was the one who did what heroes are meant to do, efficiently, which was to make the right choice when presented with impossible ones without a second thought, because all life is equally precious, leaving no room for differentiation in its sacrifice. Simply put, the smaller the better. Thus he became a machine, his name now just a manufacturing code stamped on his birth certificate out of billions. Even if it meant sullying himself with every evil that could possibly exist, even if the minority died for the sake of the majority, and even if his mind and heart were on the verge of shattering, he continued to fight because it was the only way that he could comprehend as the optimal answer for peace. Even when his wife and child's lives were weighed against the lives of those that would be affected by a nuclear fallout planned by a terrorist cell, he did not waver. Nobody knows when or how he disappeared from the face of the earth, but once the crisis was averted, he did. The vigilante's real name remains yet to be discovered, but out of fear, disgust and sometimes reverence for his unwavering spirit and tenacity, he was dubbed with the name of the omnimalevolent Zoroastrian spirit, Angra Mainyu. Izuku found himself shuddering with each breath, his heart pounding hard against his chest as his hands felt like ice. His mind was ablaze with a viscous black flame that spread fast as the images of Ida, Stain, the news clipping of Water Horse, Muscular and Shigaraki ran circles around him. Midoriya, Midoriya. Aizawa snapped his fingers in his face, which failed to elicit even a blink. Izuku. A jolting shock from Kyoka's jacks finally knocked him back into reality. Izuku, you okay? Her soft, direct voice of concern for him slowly brought him to his senses as his breathing steadied. Sorry, Mr. Aizawa, sorry, thank you for the warning. I'll take it to heart. I'll be better. I will. One can only hope. You're free to make your choices in life, but do not underestimate the gravity of your decision. The outcome can be as ugly as you can imagine it to be, if not worse. Bell's about to ring. Get to class. Okay. You. Explain. Now. Kyoka demanded as she dragged Izuku up to the roof of the school building almost immediately after classes ended. What the hell happened to you back then? It's no. Don't. Fucking. Say. That it's nothing. That is bullshit and we both know it because I'm monitoring your heartbeat. You had the scariest face I have ever seen you put on and your heart rate spiked. And I mean scary as in the psycho villain kind. Her earphone jacks were poised like a pair of pit vipers ready to strike at the slightest hint of deception or omission. I was just reminded of how naive I was. Izuku muttered as he averted his gaze. How that edge is always barely 2 steps away. All it takes is one bad day, one little push before you. Izuku shook his head to keep the images out of his head. What Ida could have become if he and Todoroki hadn't intervened at that moment. And as a pro hero, you spend day in, day out staring into that pit. The one that stares back at you. One blink, and you're a part of it. Then you're always looking over your shoulder to see if life will come and just fuck with you. In the worst way possible. I can't even imagine what I would do if that happened to me. What makes you think that you'll go over the edge? What makes you so sure? You. Izuku replied. Your involvement with me. It'll paint joint targets on our backs. And if you somehow got hurt because of me, I don't think I'd be able to forgive myself. Ever. Look, one way or another, we're all going to die someday. I know that, Izuku shouted as tears began streaming down his face. Izuku. Kyoka stared into his eyes. There was concern in those green orbs of his. And fear. Something he was desperately wrestling with, even as they spoke. Sorry, I'm just saying I don't want to play a part in your death. All Might was now officially retired. All for One was behind bars. Only for now. But this war brewing underneath the surface was far from over. The League of Villains was far from over. Shigaraki was far from over, and the modern-day Moriarty's endgame remains obscured in darkness. You're next. Those last words he uttered through the screen as the symbol of peace still weighed heavily on his heart, just as 8 generations worth of accumulated strength threatened Izuku to bend the knee. But he couldn't. He was chosen worthy. He had to finish this someday. Once and for all, so Kyoka's life wouldn't be jeopardized by a large, organized threat like them. At least, hopefully, during their lifetime. Izuku, look at me. He felt a pair of hands wipe his tears away. Looking down, he saw the face of the girl that he loved, fighting back tears of her own as she smiled. Look at me. We're a team, in our own way. So if nothing else, believe me when I say that I will always do everything in my power to save you, even when you think you don't need it, when you don't know you need it. I'm your hero and you're mine, remember. I'll watch your back, you watch mine, and keep me away from that edge, K. And if life fucks with us, we kick it in the ass together. Izuku drew Kyoka closer as he choked back a sob, hugging her tighter than he ever had in his life to stop the tremors in his body. It didn't take long before he was bawling uncontrollably while Kyoka stroked his hair, gently shushing him, whispering words of comfort and encouragement even as she sniffled a little herself, dampening his shoulder. It took roughly half an hour for both of them to finally calm down. Izuku covered his now red face in utter embarrassment. I have such an ugly cry face. Sorry you had to see that. I know that I'm worried about something unforeseeable in the future, but I've yet to see a non-ugly cry face, Izuku. And there's no need to be ashamed about crying. If you ask me, guys ought to cry more often. Thank you for opening up to me like that, and for showing how weak you can be. Come on, let's go back. I think I know the perfect solution to make you feel better. Standing up, Kyoka extended both her hands, which Izuku took, letting her pull him up to his feet. As they reached the dorms, the couple felt something strange. Usually the common room was bustling to some degree with activity, but it was unusually quiet. As they walked through the door, Bakugo came into view as he eyed them with undiluted hatred. Except for him, the space was deserted. Oi, you two fuckers got visitors. He jerked a thumb towards the elevator. Get the fuck over there ASAP. Visitors. Who? Kaken. It's Aunt Inko for you, dipshit, get your ass over there. And two other people that I'm assuming are here for you, earlobes. Oh, okay. Thanks. Shut up and move your ass. He roared as they quickly walked off. At the elevator doors, Izuku saw a short and plump middle-aged woman with green hair clutching a handbag on the left. Hey mom. Kyoka saw a woman with black hair and glasses with the same quirk as her, accompanied by a man with blonde hair that reached his shoulders and eyes shaped like her own. Oh, shit, she swore under her breath. Hey Kyoka, dear. Mika gave her daughter a small wave. Kyotoku and I were just having a discussion with Inko about you too. It was completely unexpected, but I'm glad to see you made your debut. Before graduation, no less. You look absolutely beautiful. Mika, don't encourage her please. The blonde man, Kyotoku, grumbled. Although nowhere near intimidating as Aizawa, it was pretty clear to Izuku that he was at the very least livid. Wait, can we not have this conversation in the common space? Izuku spoke up. I'm pretty sure we all know what you're here for, but we each have our own rooms. Can we please do this there? Yeah, please. Kyoka concurred, silently thanking Izuku with a quick gaze. Izuku, can we do this at your room? Mine's got instruments, so there won't be enough space to comfortably have a discussion. Plus, her room was still messy. Particularly the sheets, which she had not changed yet. Sure. Although it was only one floor worth, the elevator ride was one of the longest, most uncomfortable and awkward moments of the century that Izuku had endured to this date. The holes Kyotoku bore into his back felt like 9-inch long white-hot screws. My room's got a lot of All Might memorabilia, but I hope you don't mind. Izuku, your room is an All Might memorabilia. Kyoka, will you just get in, please? He opened the door and ushered everyone in. Giving Inko his chair and having Kyoka's parents sit on his bed, the couple stood shoulder to shoulder. So, I'm assuming your visit has to do with the pictures on Fashionissimo. You're goddamn right it does, Kyotoku piped up rather angrily. Dear, let them speak. Mika gave his shoulder a tap with her fingers. Sorry about that. Please continue. Before you do, Inko interjected, quietly but with a clear voice with a hopeful look on her face. I just want you to clarify something for the three of us. You two called each other by your given names. Are you two? Yes, Mom. Although he knew what was coming next, Izuku couldn't lie to his own mother. Not about this. We're on a first name basis because I am Kyoka's boyfriend. She asked me and I said yes about half a month ago. With a thud, Inko fell to the floor, unconscious but with an unmistakably happy face and tears streaming in joy. Wah Mom. Holy shit, she just passed out. Both of you move. Get off the bed. Now. Kyoka literally shoved her parents off the bed to let Izuku carry his mother onto the bed. Does she always do this? She went unconscious 7 times while watching the UA Sports Festival, and over half of that was because of dehydration. And she just had to ask. I can already see her passing out in public seeing this at a kiosk or something. I can't even begin to imagine what happened when my dad proposed to her. They probably wheeled her into a hospital to resuscitate her with an aid after she keeled over like now. Kyoka laughed as she jabbed her fists out while shouting, clear. Not helping, Kyoka. After calling her and tapping her face for several minutes, Inko came to, tackling her son with a hug and blasting tears out of her eyes like geysers, which took another 10 minutes to calm down. Okay, now that everyone is conscious and clear on the matter of the nature of my relationship with Kyoka, we can finally continue. Izuku said as he pinched the bridge of his nose. As I said, yes, we are dating. And, you didn't think to mention this to us? Kyotoku asked, raising a brow. Yes, Izuku, what he said. Why didn't you say anything? Inko pressed as well, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. I kinda forgot, being lost in the excitement of it all. Besides, I wasn't comfortable telling anyone about this. Plus Kyoka didn't want me to either, and so I respect her wishes. Exactly. And I decided against it because I knew you'd pull something like this. Especially you, old man. I told Mom though. What? Mika, are you serious? He turned to his wife, dumbstruck. Yes, dear. I'm aware you love our daughter more than anything in this world, and I do love you for that, but Kyoka isn't meant to be sheltered like a potted plant in a greenhouse. That went out the window ever since she decided to go to UA, you know that. We discussed that. You even consented to her living in this dorm. It was only a matter of time. But even so, how does that explain the magazine? The photos are from our first date, believe it or not. We went to Wookiees to give each other a makeover and expand each other's horizons as individuals through fashion. His idea. We met Fletcher, the Flash, who for some reason was now a fashion designer and personally asked us to be his models and dressed us up like that. But in the excitement, I kinda got carried away and didn't realize until later that this was for a magazine cover. Fletcher, the Flash. Oh, Kyoka, please. That is a load of hogwash. He's out the game. But still has his name, just in a different field. And I can prove it. Here. Signature's still the same. Rummaging through her bag, she pulled out her wallet and showed Kyotoku the business card with his personal signature on it. Upon closer inspection, his jaw dropped. Holy Black Sabbath, it's real. You met him. Kyuka nodded with a triumphant grin. Okay. Kyotoku was having extreme difficulty hiding his excitement but took a breath and continued, I'm sorry I doubted you on that, but, really. This kid has his hand around your throat, for crying out loud. He asked for my consent beforehand, and I gave it to him. See my jacks around his wrist. I'm comfortable enough to let him keep it there, so it's okay. It's called bonding. It's what couples do on a date. You're freaking married for over 20 years with the woman you had a crush on for your entire undergrad and graduate career. This should not be a foreign concept to you. Mom, are you okay? You still look, out of it. I'm okay, sweetie. Inko replied with a tired smile. Thank you. It's just a lot to take in all at once. But, oh my goodness, I still can't believe that my baby has a girlfriend. It feels like a dream. Not a dream. She's the best one I can ask for. Izuku smiled as he felt a light punch on his shoulder from a blushing Kyoka. So, Kyoka, was it? Yes, Mom. May I ask what exactly it is you see in my son? Inko asked as she turned to her. He has some of his father's looks, but, for better or for worse, he's very much like me through and through, although that's changed since he started attending UA. And now I see these pictures and he's stronger. He looks more bold and comfortable in his skin than I have ever seen him to be in my entire life watching him grow as his mother. Clearly you see something in him that I missed and breathed something new into him. Something good. Well, honestly, I didn't know him that well at first. For the longest time we were classmates, but that was it. It was by chance that we got to know each other. Officially. At first it was just being good Samaritans to each other. Telling me about certain emotional scars that he'd kept hidden from everyone, and he gave me advice on handling myself without my quirk and helped get rid of my lyricist's block. We kept this thing going and I noticed that he loses himself in training, all the time. He was absorbed. Every waking moment, every fiber of his existence was dedicated to becoming stronger, smarter, covering his bases, surpassing himself. And when he helps me, he covers every conceivable base for maximum results. I guess I was attracted to that pure sense of focus, commitment and will. I mean, the song that I finished thanks to him was about him. And I just, couldn't not tell him how I felt. She hid behind Izuku as her face grew redder by the second. Inko began shedding more tears. Alright, broccoli head, your turn. Kyotoku growled. Ooh, this is gonna be good. I want to hear this too. Mika giggled. I wasn't exactly in a healthy headspace when we first started talking, but whether she intended to or not, she did help me. Kyoka saved me from myself, if that makes any sense. Whenever I had nightmares, I go to her, or she would sense something off about me and makes me talk. It made me feel safer. I wanted to help her in return somehow for that. She asked me to make sure she could handle herself without using her quirk, which is what I did. I've seen her dedication to becoming a hero as well, and she's smart, she's strong, and she follows through. He felt Kyoka give his hand a squeeze. One time I saw her on the roof of the dorm playing a song, and I just thought she looked like the most beautiful person in the world. Plus, that song she mentioned. It made me cry. I've cried for a lot of reasons, but believe me when I say her song was the very first piece of music that made me shed tears. Kyoka also told me that her mother said music and hero work share the same principle in terms of thinking hard about what you can give people with what you do. Her music gave me peace of mind and a smile on my face. In my class, she is the only one I know who has that ability. If you ask me, that's more powerful than any quirk in existence. That made my attraction to her stronger. And now she's teaching me how to play music, how to do what she did for me. I never thought I had any sort of musical skill, but now I can read music, play bass and rhythmic of some songs. I have better rhythm now, which helps with combat exercises. Oh yeah, which ones? Kyotoku asked in a challenging tone. Well, not flawlessly, but Smoke on the Water, Seven Nation Army, and Hell's Bells. It hasn't been that long since I started learning, so. He also listens to Bill Evans when he studies, so he does have good taste. And a good singing voice. Be that as it may, I can understand the reservation you feel about me, Mr. Jirou. Your daughter's safety and protection had been your responsibility, both yours and Mrs. Jirou's, and it still is, rightfully so. Then, suddenly there's some bonehead standing in front of you who has assumed part of that responsibility for himself without your knowledge. Or your consent. In that sense, I know I'm out of line, so I'd like to apologize for that. Hey whoa there, Izuku. You're dating me, not him. Like you said, I'm the one that asked you, not the other way round. You don't need his permission or forgiveness for a damn thing about matters I can decide for myself, unless you're asking for his blessing to marry me or something. Inko's head flopped down on the pillow for a second time while Kyotoku fell to the floor from the chair he was sitting in, foaming at the mouth. Mom. God damn it, old man. Oh my god. Mika let out an exasperated sigh as she removed her glasses. Alright, you know what? Enough of this back and forth bullshit. Kyoka, I'm one of your parents, and since your father is temporarily out of commission, I'm assuming power of attorney. Izuku, was it? Why yes ma'am. Izuku stiffened his shoulders as he met Mika's gaze. I don't know you personally, but I've seen you during the sports festival on TV. Based on what you told me about her and her word of mouth about you, under no circumstances will I ever consider you a womanizer, a coward or an idiot. I'll make sure Kyotoku doesn't as well. Clearly you two have a good vibe, and I can sense it's only gotten better with what little time you spent together thus far. The way I see it, there's no sense in trying to fix what isn't even out of tune, much less discordant. So, you have my permission to date my daughter. Putting her glasses back on, Mika peered over them at Izuku. Just don't fuck this up for her, or you will answer to me. Understand. Mika's smile was genuine, but the underlying coldness of the passive-aggressive death glare made the green-haired boy shudder even more than when he faced down Stain. He nodded furiously. Good. And Kyoka, make sure you do right by this boy. He has a good heart, just like his mother. I can hear it in both of them. Once they had resuscitated the unconscious adults, sorting out the matter of the couple's relationship was finalized with parental consent given anew by both sides. Kyotoku offered to drive Inko home, to which she refused at first but relented at the behest of her son. Moments after the black Lexus drove off into the distance and disappeared as it made a left turn, Kyoka squealed in glee as she jumped Izuku and began raining kisses down on his face, which he happily returned, laughing ecstatically. Well, now that we crossed that bridge, we can burn it down. Yes we can, Kyoka. Yes, we can. Oh, by the way, I have an idea for the venue of our second date. Really? Where? I'll tell you the details, in my room. She craned her head slightly towards the dorm with a grin. Oh, yes, fucking please. Alright, come on. It has literally been only a little over 3 hours. 3. A tired voice sounded above them, causing Izuku to almost drop Kyoka on the ground. Jerking their heads up, the couple saw Aizawa looking down on them from the roof of the dorm like the black-clad angel of death himself. His capture weapon billowed slightly in the passing breeze. What part of acting within the bounds of propriety as UA students as well as common sense did you fail to understand? Lashing the cloth to the railing, he rappelled down in front of the couple. Sorry, we just finished sorting our relationship out with our parents. Aizawa nodded while sporting his usual expression of indifference. Moving on, Eri is begging me to see you again and she is not letting it go. So you want Kyoka and me to drop by again? While that would be the better option, she insists on going outside and having fun. Outside? Where? Either a mountain or a beach. Just somewhere, nature-ish. It came about after she re-watched Tarzan. Well, there's always the municipal beach park. Absolutely not. Aizawa rejected Izuku's suggestion flatly. Too many people in an open space turning into a combat zone will provide more targets than we can cover for that the lead cannon will exploit. With the likes of Toga and Twice who can shapeshift and create clones with quirks respectively being on the opposing end, we can't risk that. Besides, Eri doesn't have a swimsuit. Mr. Aizawa, I know you're trying to protect her, but if Eri's going to live in this world infested with quirks, she needs to actually interact with it to know it for what it is. Kyoka protested. Then and only then will she begin to understand how to find and establish her place in life. You of all people should understand that. A book or a movie can't tell you how the sun feels at the beach or how the sound and smell of the waves calm you. I know someone in the support course that could supply us with high-end sensors and alarms to secure a perimeter as well as protective gear disguised as civilian clothes. Eri needs to know, how to be a kid, when you're allowed to be without a care in the world, without being scared of getting hurt. The words stung Izuku a little as they came out of his mouth. They were things that he never had. That he never could have, not anymore, but he wasn't about to let that opportunity slip past someone when it was well within the grasp. She needs that. The assurance that not everything and everyone in the world is trying to hurt or kill her. That she has people she can turn to that will protect her, no questions asked. I'll study up on SP security tactics if you could get your hands on them. Fine. But I will pick the area where she can and can't go. How soon can you get your hands on the necessary equipment? A little over a week, maybe. At the most. I can't give you a solid answer since we don't yet know where exactly we'll be at or if the equipment we need is done and ready. You get a hold of your contact. I'll call Power Loader and make an addition to the security detail. It's someone you know. Great. And please make sure you go with Eri to buy a swimsuit. And let her pick. Well, that was a crazy turn of events. Having changed out of the school uniform into something more loose-fitting and comfortable, Izuku sighed as he leaned against the door to Kyoka's room to close and turn the latch. Well, at least we don't have to worry about our parents breathing down our necks. Especially my old man. Kyoka rolled her shoulders back with a groan as it made several popping noises as she stepped closer to him wearing a deep dope crop top and frayed jean shorts, leaving her flat midriff and smooth legs on full display. My mom can be quite the helicopter too. While I do appreciate her concern and care for me, it does get a tad excessive. Izuku slowly began unzipping his hoodie but stopped at the middle of his chest, beckoning with his fingers for Kyoka to come closer. You still love her though, I can tell. She snorted as she slowly closed the gap between them, a longing look staring up at him and his lips. Kyoka hated that he could turn her on so easily, but loved him for it just as much. Yes indeed I do. Come on. That was all the encouragement she needed as she unzipped the hoodie to see that he was wearing nothing underneath it. Kyoka felt her stomach drop and heard herself growl in her throat. Rushing up to Izuku, she mashed her lips onto his and shoved him up against the door as her hands wandered along his body. Izuku gently circled his arm around her waist as well while the other hand deftly undid the button and zipper on the denim. Even as he returned fire with fervent kisses, his pacing remained consistently gentle and slow, like peeling a wrapper off a candy bar. Moaning impatiently, she ground herself against him, begging to hurry up and touch her. Once gravity took its course and the shorts fell to the floor with a rustle, his hands freely roamed across her soft, supple cheeks through the fabric of her striped panties. He felt her tense up against him as he gently but firmly groped her, applying the pressure one finger at a time. It didn't take long for Kyoka's hands to slip his hoodie off, toss it aside, and wander southward as well, tenderly massaging Izuku's groin that was on fire through his long pants. Unlike him, her hands immediately pulled downwards and used her foot to press him down to his ankles, leaving his boxes on. Breaking the kiss, Izuku's left hand slowly trailed up her spine and stroked her ear. His lips closed around one of her jacks, and then the other as he rolled them around in his mouth like a piece of butterscotch, gently twirling the tip of his tongue around them. Kyoka's husky moans grew hoarse as her knees grew weak and her hips bucked once, twice, 3 more times as he shifted the jacks to the corner of his mouth and kissed her again with a generous amount of tongue. With the strength in her legs all but gone, Izuku was hit with an idea. Stepping out of his pants still hooked at his ankles, he switched positions with her. Pinning her hands above her against the door with one hand, he pulled her up off the floor with the other, trapping Kyoka as he grinded his painfully hardened cock against her groin. Ishnnnngh. Her protests were silenced as he lightly nipped on her jacks that were still in his mouth as he began grinding against her rhythmically, to which she retaliated by biting down hard on his shoulder in an effort to suppress her ecstatic cries. Izuku, however, was having none of it. How dare she, he thought. How dare she not let him hear her voice more? He felt Kyoka's teeth sink deeper into his shoulder, which did anything but deter him. God. Dar. Izukura. Stop. Holding. Back. He switched up the rhythmic strokes into something radically different. Random. Erratic. In a manner that was only possible when one let the body do the thinking while the brain just relished every moment, every breath, and every bit of pleasure. Most importantly, every bit of her. Her cheeks were flushed, pupils dilated, body glistening with sweat, and a puddle had formed on the floor beneath them that was getting bigger with every drop of Kyoka's juices dripping from her womanhood. She had this strange expression, a mixture of pleasure, pleading and fear. He knew this was beyond anything she had ever received. But he wanted to see for himself what would happen if he absolutely bombarded her senses. Broke her, even. Izuku felt her teeth leave his shoulder. An admission of defeat came in the form of a small, okay, echoing in his ears, which was all he needed. Sucking harder on the jacks, his thrusting became rhythmic once again, but far more intense. A gasp and a long shuddering breath was all that left her lips as she went limp, turning into goo in Izuku's arms. He carried her to her unmade bed and used some tissues to soak up the mess on the floor before lying next to her. You fucking animal, she rasped, throwing a weak punch at Izuku's face which he dodged as he swayed his head back, grinning with utter pride. Sorry. Really don't want to be though. In all honesty, he was angry. At least slightly. Towards Bakugo, everyone that ever asked him about the magazine cover, Aizawa, Kyoka's parents, and even his mother, albeit on a far more marginal scale compared to the last two. You know what? You can go fuck yourself to Mars and back. But I probably needed that more than I care to admit. With, Bakugo being Bakugo in the morning and all the drafting of us. Then there's our parents and Mr. Aizawa totally cock-blocking us one after the other. I still hate them for that. Kyoka, you're sending me mixed signals here. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You pretty much dry humped me into the best orgasm I've ever had thus far against the fucking door. My body feels like it's floating, my brain is frazzled, so I will send whatever scrambled, conflicting signals I damn well please, you dumbass. You pervert. You malevolent sadist in the sheets. She turned on her side to look away from Izuku, mumbling to herself, seriously, we're both virgins. How in the fuck are you figuring out how to push my buttons? It's so unfair. Not that she disliked it, but it did worry her slightly. Izuku could totally be a womanizer if he tried. Who knows? Maybe someday he'd convince her into a threesome with another girl through his technique. Although that thought in and of itself made her proud that she had somewhat tamed him into committing to her alone. So, about our second date. Where exactly were you planning to take me? Not telling you. Why not? To be fair, you didn't tell me what we were doing on our first date until we got there, so I'm not saying a word about it to you. Fair enough. Izuku relented even as he fought the strong desire to make her talk through methods she experienced firsthand. It managed to extract some surprisingly kinky stuff she was into, although she managed to do the same as well with him to a lesser degree. You'll like it though, I promise. I'm sure I will. They lay there in comfortable silence as they chuckled and kissed for a while until someone knocking at the door pulled their wandering minds back into reality. Jirou, it's me, Yaoyorozu called out. I was hoping you could spare some time and try some clothing on that would definitely suit you. Oh, goddammit no, Yaomomo, why now? I'll get my pants and hoodie. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.